Every new console generation comes with a bevy of brand new questions. Which console will have better games? How will each company market their product to get ahead in sales? Will there be any disastrous tech failures? Can I use it to fry an egg in trying times? Some of these questions are mostly subjective, with different consumers having preferences based on their own tastes and values. One thing that's hard to argue with, though, is how good a game looks. Textures, resolution, and frame rates are all important, and it's super noticeable if they're done poorly. So, in trying to take a look at an objective argument for the superior console, we'll discuss what might make one stand out of the crowd. Hello, fellow friends and philosophers, and welcome back to the most mind-bending channel on YouTube, Life's Biggest Questions. I'm your voice in the void, Keegan Hughes, and today we're going to be taking a look at the potential graphical battle between gaming console giants. It's PlayStation 5 versus Xbox Series X in a graphics duel to the death. Before we get started, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more next-gen gaming. Wicked. Let's see what's up. Both Microsoft and Sony have been pretty stingy with the new information regarding their flagship consoles. They're trying their best to prevent too many early leaks, as any information revealed too early could have a negative effect on hype and anticipation. We do have some technical specs for both consoles, so that's a good place to start with this modern console war. Nothing here is set in stone, so we can't know any of this for sure prior to release, but it is a good place to set some expectations. The most we can really do at the moment is compare CPU and GPU specs. If that sounds a little daunting, fret not. I'll do my best to break down what each component does in simple terms. CPU is an acronym that stands for Central Processing Unit, or more simply, the processor. Through a series of input/output operations, arithmetic, and logic, this piece of hardware is basically the brain of the console, receiving, directing, and processing data. A CPU's core can also be referred to as its processor because they're essentially synonyms. Multi-core CPUs have become more prevalent over the years, and the Xbox and PS5 are no exception. Both have an 8-core AMD Zen 2 CPU, but the Xbox does come out on top with an additional 0.3 GHz. This shouldn't cause too much of a difference between the two consoles, but it is worth noting. Either way, the last generation consoles capped out at 2.3 GHz, so there will be a noticeable difference with this jump forward. So far, Xbox has the lead with a slightly more powerful CPU, but what about the GPU? The graphics processing unit, known commonly as a graphics card, is responsible for actually creating and rendering images, video, and animation. By taking over for these tasks, it also frees up the CPU to do what it does best. There's a bit more disparity between Xbox and PlayStation in terms of GPU power. The PlayStation 5 GPU clocks in at 10.3 teraflops, while the Xbox Series X boasts 12.0. This might not seem like a big difference at first, but when you consider how a GPU operates, you might change your mind. That difference of 1.7 represents a whole lot more if you get down into it. A teraflop is a measurement rating the performance of your GPU. It directly mathematically rates its performance. In terms of hard numbers, 1 teraflop means that a GPU can perform about 1 trillion operations per second. So the difference in operations per second between PS5 and the Xbox Series X could be 1.7 trillion. A little bigger now that we're not just seeing 1.7, eh? If this is the case on release, then the Xbox Series X definitely takes the lead in terms of graphical excellence. With the additional processing power, the Xbox might be able to render higher quality textures, further draw distances, and more detailed environments. However, that doesn't necessarily mean there will be too big of a difference. With major consoles being sold the way they are, they often have similar libraries. We'll talk about exclusives in a second, but all of the multi-platform releases have to be developed in a way so that they can more or less run the same way on both consoles. It's not too likely that any game developer will dig in and really take full advantage of the additional power on one console. In the past, this has always been the case, with multi-platform games often having minimal performance differences between consoles. There might be some additional blades of grass or a slightly higher resolution to choose, but in the end, the games look more or less identical. That's just the multi-platform games, though. If a first-party developer is making a game exclusively for one console, then we might see some big graphical differences. By taking full advantage of the hardware, certain devs could really make some eye-popping software. We've seen it before with the highest quality visuals coming from exclusive titles. For Microsoft, there are titles like Forza that essentially become solid racing simulators that also act as incredible tech demos. I'm sure the teams behind many of the Forza games took specific hardware into account while developing the game. The same can be said about games like Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us 2, put out by Naughty Dog, a PlayStation exclusive developer. These games are extremely technically impressive and likely managed to be so impressive thanks to a focus on one hardware set. Graphics don't only rely on hardware. Game devs need to be skillful in their design if their games are to look good. But again, we come back to the fact that the Xbox is currently ahead of the PlayStation in terms of next-gen power, and until we see evidence to the contrary, it's likely that the Series X will come out on top with better graphics. That's a lot of speculation though. So far, Sony has actually come out with a more impressive tech demo, showcasing Unreal Engine 5 running on their hardware. They claim that film quality assets can be imported into games and run in real time. That's an impressive assertion, but if their demo can be taken as a sign of things to come, we're in for an extremely gorgeous generation of gaming. It would be safe to assume that Xbox Series X will be on a similar level, but we just haven't seen anything confirming that yet. Microsoft will undoubtedly release some new information soon and show off what their tech can do. In fact, there is a Microsoft event coming in late July. Through the use of solid-state drives, loading and playing games will be faster than ever, and it seems that both consoles will be able to support 8K resolutions. Pair this with potential frame rates of 120 FPS and you've got some silky smooth gameplay. It would be nice if there was a precedent set by past console generations, but the victor of graphics battles seems to bounce back and forth. The Xbox 360 versus PS3 discussion is a bit of a toss-up, with the PS3 seemingly taking the lead with horsepower, but the Xbox being easier to develop for. Then the PS4 seemed to have the advantage over the Xbox One, but when each console released their updated models, the Xbox One Series X took the cake. There's no way to know for sure which console will have better graphics on release, so for now we'll just have to imagine. What do you think? Which console will come out on top? Will Nintendo ever enter the conversation? What console do you plan on buying? Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more illuminating ones from Why Was Dr. Disrespect Banned? Vincent Ray says they got him being respectful. Damn. Do you really think he would do something so out of character? Boggles the mind. Plunch Gunster says, I'm beginning to think that he's not really a doctor. Medical professionals tend to frown upon that kind of behavior. Maybe they had him surgically removed from the platform. GHZJ2391 asks, what if all mammals, including humans, could lay eggs? And if all animals, including humans, could regenerate missing body parts like eyes and limbs? The eggs question could be interesting, considering how vulnerable most mammals are at birth. We'd probably be a less successful species, to be honest. Regeneration would be wicked, I would just hope it works by Deadpool rules. Down for some tiny legs supporting my regular-sized body. Quacktoon says, life's biggest question. What is life's biggest problem? Probably human sentience. If we all just live by instinct, I think we'd be a lot better off. Maybe not as globally dominant, but happier. John Likes Diamond asks, has anyone actually seen his eyes? That's a pretty good question. Do you think there's hidden power behind those shades? And that's all the time we have for today. Before I run out of batteries, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more button mashing masterpieces. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.